Hello, my precious fatties. The moment I saw these little crystal beads at Hobby Lobby, I immediately knew what I was going to do with them. And they were on sale. I do want to let you guys know that this tutorial is mostly going to focus on the topper, but I am going to show you how I made the tumbler. So what you want to do, of course, is prep your tumbler and your lid to make sure it doesn't repel any of your supplies. I am using Jen's Crafted Inks. She's one of my closest friends and she's a boss queen. Anyway, so we're going to start off by taking our painter's tape and we're going to tape off the rim of our mason jar because we have to be really careful not to get epoxy over those little ridges or else you're not going to be able to screw the lid on. Then after you do that, you take a little piece of painter's tape and you tape the inside of the lid. I only did this so that I wouldn't get any UV resin or any epoxy on the inside. And then I take a straw and I put a little bit of tape on it. The reason I add the tape is so that it could have like a very tight seal in the center. Okay, so that's where we're gonna leave that for now. Now on the tumbler, you're gonna go ahead and take black alcohol ink and you are going to just kind of dab it all over your tumbler. Ignore the little gray spaces that you see. I was experimenting and it didn't turn out how I was thinking. So we're gonna scratch that and just go over the entire tumbler with black alcohol ink. And you don't have to have like exact coverage to where it's pitch black. That's actually not what you want. Then you're going to pour a little bit of 99% alcohol into a medicine cup and you're going to take a paintbrush. And what I like to do is I like to dip my paintbrush into the alcohol and I like to dab it onto the cup and then I like to blow. And when I blow, that creates those little like cells and all that cool stuff. And then I went in and added some pink because in the little areas where you see separation, you can see little hints of pink and it looks really, really cool. So that's basically all I did for the tumbler. I just did the black, the pink with the alcohol and I repeated the process until it looked how I liked it. And when you blow with your, like when you blow on the alcohol ink, it just makes the separation of it just look super cool. I repeated the exact same thing on the lid. And I do want you guys to know I do have another tutorial on alcohol inks and I used this exact method, but I explained in more detail. So feel free to head over and watch that if you need a little bit more help with the alcohol inks. Once they were completely dry, you do not have to seal them. Just go in with your first coat of epoxy. I did 30 mLs. And I went ahead and I kept my tape around the rim. And then right before I walked away, I pulled off the tape so that it wouldn't get stuck on the mason jar with the epoxy. And then while that was spinning, I came over to work on my lid and I am using UV resin. I found this resin on Amazon because I was out and I needed some in a hurry. And I read the reviews and it was amazing. And after using it, 10 out of 10 recommend. I really like it. So I went ahead and I did 3 coats of UV resin over my lid because I did very thin coats and I wanted to protect that alcohol ink. And then I took my little beads and I kind of started placing them on top just to get an idea of how they were going to fit around the top of the lid. And I started off by just attaching just a few as my little like blueprint of where I wanted them to go. And to apply them, I basically just took a little bit of UV resin and I applied it over the tumbler, just kind of used my finger to spread it around a little bit. And then I started placing my little crystals and I held the light over them for honestly like 15 to 20 seconds because I did a very, very thin coat. And luckily the stones were transparent, so it made the UV resin cure super fast. And then once I had those first ones set, that was enough for me to be able to build on because I used those same ones to like stand up and lean some of the other crystals up. And make sure before you get too far, put your straw in your tumbler. And the reason you want to do this is so that no UV resin gets inside of there. And 2, it's so that you don't accidentally put crystals in a way where your straw is not going to fit when you're done. So make sure that you have your straw in there. And then just kind of repeat the process and build your little cluster from there. Fill in the gaps, move them around, and place them wherever you want to where you think that they look good. This part took me like 30 minutes because I really kept messing with them. But of course, I'm not going to make you watch all 30 minutes of me moving the clusters around. So once you're done and you know that they're on there and you know that they're not going to come off, you've pulled on them, you know that they're secure, I'm going to take one coat of UV resin and I'm going to seal the stones and the entire top. And then once I cure that, I'm going to do 2 more coats on top. But the coats that I do on top are going to be super thin with regular epoxy. And then I'm just going to let it sit overnight and dry. If you do a very, very thin coat, you are not going to have a problem. I recommend using a really fine paintbrush because you want to be able to get up in there into every single little nook and crevice. I mean, you want to get up in there like a wedgie. I've been telling my baddies all week, you're all up in there like a wedgie. So that's how you want to get your brush in there. You want to get it all up in there and take your time. Make sure you're getting every single little nook and crevices. There's always a word on every video that I don't know how to pronounce, and that's what it was for this video. And just make sure that you're covering every single crystal. Make sure that you're getting those spaces underneath the crystals. This is why it's good to do 3 coats. I do just want to remind you, only the first coat over my crystals was with UV resin. The other 2 coats were with regular epoxy. And I just let that cure overnight, and it was so beautiful and crystal and clear. And because the coat is so thin, you don't have to worry about bubbles or anything like that. And that's how we finished off our tumbler. After that, I took my decals and I went ahead and I just placed them on my tumbler. I always like to place my tumblers standing up like this. Now, I made those little crystal SVGs with a stamp on my Procreate, and I will share those linked in the description. And the Protect Your Baddie Vibes, I just typed that into Cricut and put it on there. So I will go ahead and I will share the exact fonts that I used for that. And I just placed little crystals all around the tumbler to make it look super cute and bougie. And that's it, you guys. I feel like this is a really easy tutorial. It's super fast. And I feel like the topper is not as scary or as intimidating as you would think it is to make. And like I mentioned, I'm going to share a link to these little crystals as well as the fonts I used for my little decal. After that, I sealed it with 40 mLs of epoxy because I wanted it to be very thick. And I was very careful not to get any on those ridges. And you can go back and wipe any off with a wipey if you would like. And this is what it looked like. I'm freaking obsessed with it, guys. Like, this is probably one of my favorite tumblers I've ever made. Let me know in the comments what you thought, and I will see you guys on Wednesday. Besitos! Have a good weekend, guys.